Charles Cheval.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Mr Speaker, it's an honour to have an opportunity to speak in respect of the debate on the Canterbury Earthquake Commemoration Day Bill. And as others before me have done, I'd like to begin by acknowledging the people of Christchurch and Canterbury, and in particular those who've died or been injured and their families and friends. I'd also like to echo the words of appreciation that have been already said in the House about the work of the emergency services, both the domestic New Zealand services but also all those from overseas who've come to assist New Zealand in its hour of need. And I think there wouldn't be one person in the chamber who hasn't been moved by that extraordinary gesture of support that was so quickly forthcoming and so reassuring. It almost seemed as if we didn't need to ask. The help was there, and it has been and is magnificent. And I know that the police and others have been incredibly impressed by the level of that support that they've been able to call on, and also what a difference it's made in practice on the ground. And I don't think that we as MPs can do enough to stress just how important that support's been. Obviously, it's also appropriate to acknowledge all the many New Zealanders who volunteered in many ways through fundraising or through their own labour, through donating cakes at the bake-off in Auckland the other day, and who have simply got on with providing assistance in whatever way they've been able to. And the importance of what we are doing today by moving to enact this bill, I think, is to acknowledge all those people and to really say that we want to do something concrete by way of demonstrating appreciation, as well as doing the appropriate thing to remember all those who've been so devastated by the event itself. Sir, I had a family member in Christchurch on the day of the quake, and I had for my family and me, it was an anxious time while we waited to hear about her safety. She told us about just how terrifying it was to be in the quake itself. She managed to get under a table when it started, and when she got out from under the table after the earthquake, the seat that she'd been sitting in had a bookcase fall right onto it and crush the chair, and then described just how awful it was to be there for another 24 hours, the roaring sound of the aftershocks. I know that Canterbury members who've experienced this must have just found it really wearing down on a daily basis. It was hard enough hearing about a family member being trapped in it for a day, and the sense of relief that we had when she arrived back in Wellington was extraordinary. So if that's what it feels like to have a connection on that sort of intimate level for 24 hours, it really must be something much more harrowing to be living this day to day by being in Canterbury and participating in the recovery efforts. I also want to acknowledge a staff member of mine who moved up from Christchurch last year, who has family and friends still down there, and I've seen firsthand what she has gone through in terms of finding out about loved ones affected by the quake and by people close to her who have died. And again, it's not a first-hand experience, but it does give some insight into just what people in Canterbury are going through at the moment, and it makes it doubly appropriate, I think, for us to be mindful of those experiences while we have this debate today. Sir, of course, other memorial services have been already held across the nation, and I speak in particular of the ones that were held on the 1st of March. There was the service here on the steps of Parliament, organised by the Anglican Cathedral next door and participated in by a number of other faiths. And it was a real privilege to be able to participate in that service on behalf of colleagues. The Deputy Leader of the Opposition said before that it was an appropriate thing that it had been agreed that the procedure to be followed on the 18th of March would be one where partisanship would be set aside and there would be speakers from across the House, and that is absolutely right. These affairs ought to be ones where, as a Parliament, we can participate in a solemn and non-political occasion, and I hope that that will always be the convention in respect of these sorts of matters. We shouldn't really even have to ask about them. It should be second nature that these things are done in this way. Sir, in respect of the present bill, nobody, I don't think, disagrees with the absolute appropriateness of a day of commemoration, a day of honouring the work that's been done already in respect of the Canterbury recovery. And I'm not sure how we'll progress this debate, whether there'll be a traditional committee stage where the Minister will be discussing any issues concerning the bill. Depending on how we proceed, it might be appropriate to ask her a couple of questions around what is planned. I'm going to just foreshadow a couple of issues now that I hope she might be able to have a think about, and whether we get a committee stage or whether she chooses to deal with them in her second or third reading speech. I'm obviously happy anyway, but obviously there has been the concern about timing. There's obviously a lot of people still in Canterbury engaged in recovery and clean-up, still lots of people without power or sewerage or water, and we know that all effort is being put in to prioritise restoring those services, and we know how important that is. But will it be too soon for some of the people working in the essential services, the people who've contributed in the aftermath, the police officers, the civil defence staff, people in the fire brigades, doctors and nurses, the other health workers, the drain layers, the contractors, the demolition crews and many others? It would just be fantastic to be assured that there'll be appropriate provision made so that everybody who wants to come together to participate in the service on the 18th will have the opportunity to take a little bit of respite from the dreadful recovery work and have the opportunity to do that. And of course there's the 70,000 people who've already left Canterbury and are only just beginning to think about whether they can return. It would be good to know that the government has thought about their position as well, because obviously people who've had to leave and want to come back and be part of the commemoration process need to be considered as well. Sir, I don't think there's any doubt about the appropriateness of a public holiday. I don't think we should be concerned about the economics. I had a call from one of the MPs in Christchurch today who was working with a delicatessen in Littleton that has to move premises, and they need to apply for a new licence because they serve wine. And they were told by the City Council that if they applied for a new licence, it would be opposed because policy is that delicatessens are not the ideal place to serve wine. Well, that's the sort of red tape that needs to be cut through rather than worrying about whether we should be having a public holiday and the effects of that. So, sir, with those words, I congratulate the government on moving to a commemoration, and I commend the bill to the House.
David Bennett.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Just like to follow on from all the speakers in the House